Hey, what's up everyone? This is Snackbox. Hope you all are having an amazing day. Guys, in this video, I want to talk about the two teams that I used last week to get some mythical mats from the Chimera clan boss. And yeah, so I'm a little bit late with this video since, the week is already over and the next one started. So now we have different trials, but I think it's still something you can work towards for the next rotation of these trials, right? So in this week, we had mythical mats behind the poison trials on the Viper form. Then we had to deal damage with ally attacks on the Lion form. And there were a couple of mythical mats on the Ram form as well. And there we had to deal a specific amount of damage with a single hit. So the first team that I used, you can see it here with Farrakhan, Harima, Arbase, Lydia, Siphi. So Lydia and Siphi are kind of like my go-to champions when it comes to support and debuffs and revives. Now that I'm using Harima here as my damage dealer, I covered the decreased attack, so I can basically swap Necmo out for Arbase. But you gotta make sure that you have increased accuracy in your team. That's why I think Marius is a very solid option. If you can build him in a 9-piece Slayer set, you can also complete these trials on the Ram form, where you have to deal 750,000 damage with a single hit. And the extra damage from the 9-piece Slayer set can complete this trial as well. So we gotta bring an increased accuracy buff and at least 7 unique debuffs. That will unlock the next trial where we have to deal like 2 million damage, I believe, while the Chimera is under weaken and your champions are under increased crit rate or increased crit damage. That's why Farrakhan is in here in this team. And the last one was damaging the Chimera with a single skill while it is under weaken and decreased defense. Then on the Lion form, we had to damage the Chimera with counter attacks and ally attack skills. And that was actually pretty easy to do. And then the last mythical mats were on the Viper form. For that, we had to place poisons on the Chimera, while the Chimera is also on the poison sensitivity. And this trial is actually a little bit tricky because you kind of have to complete the poison trial and the one after that in the first cycle of the Viper form. So basically, you have to deal 250,000 damage with poisons and then keep all your champions alive for 3 Chimera turns. And then we need to successfully revive one ally or all allies when reviving multiple champions. And here's the thing, you kind of have to complete the first 2 trials in the first cycle to make it a little bit easier or much easier to complete the hard trial, which is successfully revive one ally or all allies when reviving. With Farrakhan, this is actually not really possible unless you have some form of reset to place enough poisons. I built mine actually in Relentless and Merciless, and he also has a Purge Shadow Relic, so there is a chance that he would reset his skills and get extra turns, and then maybe there is a low chance to do it, but you have to proc a lot of sets and relics to be able to do this. So in my case, I was only able to get the easy trial and the normal trial, and the hard trial I actually skipped with this team. So the maximum amount of mythical mats that I was able to get here were 16, which is still fine for me, right? Now, to be able to complete this poison trial very fast, you have to have a poison activation champion, like we just got a path for, Balar, right? He's absolutely amazing for that. But you have to have a pretty good build for him with a soul maybe, and a relic, and the boss slayer, and a 6-piece merciless set and zeal, and then also pretty good stats to be able to complete the other trials on the Ram form, for example, if you want to use him as your damage dealer. I tried actually to use him, but it didn't really work out because my gear is not that good. I also don't have a soul. I do have like an erratic coronet with a boss slayer. That's what I used on him, and he was in a 6-piece merciless set, a 2-piece zeal set, so I tried to squeeze out as much damage as possible but it just wasn't enough. I was like 50, 75k damage short for the Ram Farm trial, so I actually gave up on Ballard for this week until I get a soul for him and maybe some better gear so I can push his damage. So once I, get a better build for him, he will be absolutely amazing for this. But like I said, it really needs to be a good build for him to hit hard. Anyway, this team got me 131 million damage, so a little bit over the 1 key damage. Nothing crazy, to be honest. 2.5 billion clash points is really not a lot. And in the end, I got 16 mythical mats here, as you can see. So I ran Ultra Nightmare twice, but in the second run, I actually used a slightly different team. I sacrificed like 3 mythical mats for double the clash score, but it also was, much more comfortable to do the run than with this team. This team was, a little bit sketchy sometimes. You have to be aware when to use what and so on. You don't really have debuff extensions, so you have to keep our base in the alternate form most of the time to replace at decreased speed and so on. And with the other team, I don't really have to do that. So this was the other team that I used, basically just Mikage instead of Farrakhan. And look at the damage, 272 million damage. Like the difference is absolutely crazy because I can just, extend the debuffs and swap Arbais into the normal form and start turn meter boosting instead of just keeping her in the alternate form to replace a decreased speed. And this is the result. And also, Harima would always join up on the A1 ally attacks from Lady Mikage, obviously. That's also another big reason. But the amount of extra turn meter and extra turns I got just, by the fact that I can use our base turn meter increase was absolutely insane. And also the buff duration increase was also crazy. I have like 2, right? So all of this is just much more comfortable in terms of damage and completing the trials, and it feels much safer than the other team. Also, there were like a couple of mistakes that were happening where I didn't see that the decreased speed got resisted, so I swapped forms with our base too early, and then a whole lion form cycle was without decreased speed, but still, like, the performance was still insane. I think with an perfect run, I could probably go up to like 6 billion clash points, because the fact that I lost the whole line form cycle without having decreased speed on the line form, I also missed a lot of trials early on, which also causes me to have way less clash points because the multiplier is not that high in the first cycles. So yeah, that was kind of a problem right there, but still, I'm still really happy with the amount of damage and the amount of clash points I got from this team. And to be honest, it's still 13 mythical mats, which is not bad, right? If you run this twice, you get like 26. Like I said, like, this team feels really good, like it's really comfortable to run it. Now with the Ballard team, I kind of faced some issues because I just had too many debuffs sometimes on the Ram form, because I also have, Brimstone on Necmo, for example, and that really caused the Ram form debuff bar to be full sometimes, and then I can't place the fear, and then, Ballard gets the reflected damage and so on. So yeah, it was a little bit tricky, not gonna lie, but either way, my Ballard was also not able to hit hard enough to complete the 750,000 damage with a single hit trial. So I didn't really bother too much using this team, using Ballard, and I probably will retry once I get a soul for him. So yeah, as you can see here, I have the decreased defense, I have the weaken, I have 3 poisons. I don't know if that counts towards the single hit trial, probably does, but I'm not quite sure. Either way, with 3 poisons, I only get like 75,000 damage. plus the 424 from the initial hit. I have increased attack, increased crit damage, 3 protected buffs in total. Lydia is in a 9-piece feral set, and she plays Fear, decreased defense, and weaken, so that's another 15% damage. So yeah, I don't know. It just wasn't enough, and I think once I get a soul, it might be much better. Maybe then I'm able to complete this trial with Bala and some gear upgrades here and there. Because I really think the soul makes such a huge difference because of the extra stats and the nature's wrath as well. So yeah, I mean, obviously you have to stack up that ignore defense from his passive too. But yeah, we will see. Once I get a soul, I will try this again. But with this build that I had here right now, it just wasn't enough. Maybe if I could stack up more poisons and just extend them, maybe then it is possible to do it. 3 poisons at like 2 or 3 stacks, that's a lot of damage, right? So yeah, I have to try it again next time. But yeah, I will definitely wait for a soul. Either way, I want to show you 2 of my builds real quick. I changed my R base a little bit, right? I made her a little bit slower, but I gave her another impulse set, and that was absolutely amazing. Another 12% chance to reduce a random skill cooldown by 1 turn. That resulted me in having this turn meter boost so much more available that it was absolutely insane and boosted my damage immediately in this team, and it was not comparable to before. It was pretty damn amazing. And these are the stats for Harima: 48,000 HP, 6.2, almost 3k defense, 239 speed, 340 crit damage, 400 accuracy. That's in a 2-piece Zeal, 6-piece Merciless set. I have 1 piece of Feral to boost up her accuracy, but with R base I have the increase accuracy, which allows me to build her with a little bit less. And then for the relic, I had the Ireti Coronet on her with the Boss Slayer and this pretty solid triangular gemstone. And this is also another thing I want to point out. We actually placed first in the Chimera Clash this time, right? And I did get a pretty good reward. I did get a mythical triangular gemstone. But here comes the big issue that I have with the class chests. Most of these mythical gemstones are just not good. When attacking targets under stun, freeze, sleep, provoke, and so on, with their default skill, the wearer has a 10% chance to repeat the attack once. I mean, a 10% chance to repeat the default attack, like what is that? I don't know. It's a 10% chance, man. Here I have guaranteed 3% Death Ignore. This is much better than this mythical gemstone. So this here outclasses this one, unless you are very lucky and this 10% chance procs all the time. But also you don't want to hit champions out of their sheep debuffs, or you don't want to hit, wake up champions that have a sleep debuff and so on, or proc the mastery that removes one of these debuffs. So I don't know. It feels really like a weird one, and it's that's just another reason why I think Clash rewards are just bad. They just need a buff. Either way, they need to give us more Starstone for the Clash chest, or they need to rework some of these mythical gemstones because like I said, if you get something like this and it's just gonna sit there in your inventory and you're never going to use it because gemstones like this are just much better. Whereas damage increases by 1% per 100 of the total accuracy. Like this is 10 times better. And then this one right here, the rare one that I already mentioned, like those are guaranteed damage boosts, right? Where this is a 10% chance to have a little bit more damage. So I don't know. And this is not the only one that is not that good. Like here, extra punishment. The wearer deals 20% more damage against enemies under crowd control debuffs. I mean, that is somewhat good because you get a guaranteed 20% more damage. The double down is, I don't know, bad. The wearer has an 8% chance to get an extra turn after killing an enemy. Okay, it's also okay, I guess, but not so useful for boss fights or whatever. 8% chance to get an extra turn is like half an relentless set. I'm not gonna complain about that. If you have that like in your cat's gaze and it procs, it could be awesome. And this is probably the best one here for Carnage that is always counter-attacking. The wearer deals 50% more damage when counter-attacking. But then you have also square gemstones that like the wearer ignores 15%. Who really cares about this? Like it's just so weird. Or this one right here, blunt blades. Enemies under a provoke debuff have a 15% chance to land a weak hit on the wearer. So it's like only good for champions that have a provoke debuff, right? It's very niche, and I don't think it's good. Like if we would have one of these gemstones, you know, that are focusing on provoke, okay, but we have two. Like, do we have like 200 champions that are placing provoke, or am I missing something? So that's something that I don't understand. Why would you have a gemstone, a mythical gemstone for such a niche use when there's also not that many great provokers? Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. So yeah, there were 3 teams that I tried. Like I said, the first one was the, Harima Ferrokin team, which got me 16 mythical mats. It was a little bit sketchy and not so safe. I had to retry a couple of times to get it done, but in the end, 16 mythical mats was alright. A little bit low of a clash score, but that's okay. Then after that, I actually tried Balar because then I built him for the CVC, but he wasn't hitting hard enough, and I'd have to work on his build. But once I got that ready to go, I will try it again for the next rotation maybe. And then the third team was the Mikage Harima team, which was much more comfortable, got a little bit less mythical mats, 13 instead of 16. A lot more clash score. That felt also much more comfortable. It only took me 1 run, and I'm very familiar with the mechanics of it. So, it felt much better. And yeah, got 29 mythical mats in total last week. That's still like 1/4 of a mythical craft. And, every month I will be able to get 1 mythical craft and hopefully more mythical relics at some point. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this video, guys. I'm gonna drop a video for this week's trials as well. I think I can get a good amount of mythical mats this time. Hopefully I can hit the 21. That would be amazing. I'm definitely not gonna be able to get the 25. That's gonna be out of my reach at this point. Because, I just don't have the mythicals or the right champions to do so. But yeah, I will make the best out of it. And yeah, with that being said, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you enjoyed, please hit the like button. It really goes a long way. Also, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And YouTube is gonna suggest you a video here that the algorithm thinks you're gonna be interested in. So yeah, see you in the next one.